Are you ready to step up your wholesaling game? In this video, I'm going to show you how to build the best wholesaling system on YouTube for free. What's going on? My name's Martin. As a professional Podio consultant, I've worked with hundreds of wholesalers to help build systems around their businesses. But in this video, I'm going to take all of the best and most impactful features that I've implemented over the years and bring them into one system. I will say now, this is going to be an in-depth, comprehensive build. So for those that would just like the completed system, you can click the link below and we'll do all the work for you. But first, so you know what the end result's going to look like, let me show you the system. All right, so as you can see, we're now in the beginner's Podio system. This is exactly how yours will look once we have basically got everything set up. But the good thing is, we're actually going to give you these apps for free. You're also going to get the purchase contract template that we use in this system. You're going to get that for free as well. So you'll be able to start generating purchase contracts from the system straight away. I'll show you a little bit later on how you're going to get the apps. But as I said, they're all going to be included except for the communications one. But when we connect SmrtPhone, you're going to get that from SmrtPhone. All right, so as you can see, the apps that we have a tasks app. Just because Podio's built-in tasks is not that great in my opinion. So having a tasks app gives you a much better overview of all your tasks. We have the seller leads, offers, cash buyers, team members, where you're going to need to add all of your team members, obviously, appointments, notes log, communications, contacts, and settings. We also, on the home screen, have some KPIs. Tasks due today. This will be split by who is assigned the task. Sellers awaiting response. This will be split by who's the lead manager. We also have a section for your logo, so you can edit this and put your own logo in here. Then we also have these KPIs down here. We have new seller leads today. Calls made today will be split by who made the call. And appointments set today. This will be split by who's assigned the appointment. We also have this weekly and monthly. So those are pretty basic KPIs, but going down the line, I will show you how you can add KPIs. Add as many as you want, basically. So most of your time will be spent in seller leads. So let's go and check out seller leads. We can see we have this test lead right here. We have header where we can see the first line of the address and the name, the activity tracker, which just gives us an overview of communication history, how many notes we've logged, appointments made, navigation, where we're able to easily navigate to any part of the app, right like this. Lead manager, I'm not going to go through every single field, but to give you an overview of the main functionalities, we have property information where we can click on the Zillow link and it will take us to the matching property if it finds one within Zillow. We can also obviously just add in the property details right here. We can do some comping as well. So let's say we want to calculate the MAO. We can do what we think the ARV is going to be. So let's say 67,000, which will then straight away give us a 60, 70, 80, 85, and 90. You can easily change these percentages. We can then add in what we think the repair costs will be, and it will update accordingly. So really nice to quickly get an MAO. We have our lead stages. Again, you can change these, but what I recommend you do as you're following along with the demo is just keep everything the same and you'll realize what you can change and what you need to be careful changing later down the road. Then we come to our tasks, and this is where it connects to the tasks app that we just saw. Follow-ups are super important. There's a few ways you can follow up with this app. You can do a quick schedule follow-up right here. We can do 3 weeks. And what that will do is it will create a task for 3 weeks' time, and it'll show right here. It'll be assigned to whoever made the update. And yeah, you've got your task now for 3 weeks' time. Or what we can do is just manually add in a task right here. And what that will do is it will automatically complete this follow-up task and schedule a new follow-up task. Or if you don't want to come down to a specific section, you're even able to do something like FU, which this stands for follow-up, 9 days. Again, what that will do is schedule a follow-up for 9 days' time and assign it to the person who made the comment. So Really nice and really quick to follow up. And then obviously, those follow-up tasks can be seen right here. So you can see that we have now 4 follow-ups. This must have been an old test I was doing. But we have the 2 that we just made and the brand new one. We can click into this, click into the related item, and it takes us back to the lead. Likewise with notes, we want login notes, making sure we know where we are with this lead to be as simple as possible. So when we're logging notes, you'll notice there is no text box or anything to write into. It's because it's all handled from the comments. We use log, : this is a note. So now you don't have to worry about adding the date, who logged it, all that type of stuff. It does it for you. So you can see the date and time the note was logged, who logged it, and what they logged. And then we can add another log, adding another. And again, it's going to add another. Super easy, super clean. The offers overview, I'm going to come back to that. I'll show you how you can basically create purchase contracts and automatically send it if you wanted to integrate right signature, which we're also going to go over. We're going to set appointment from here. So who's going on the appointment, the date and time of the appointment, any notes, which is optional, and then we can push it to the calendar. That appointment's then going to show up here. And I'll show you later down the line how you can connect your calendar to Podio. So this appointment will show in your Google Calendar or your iCal, whatever you're using. So then going down a little bit more, we have our communication overview. This is a really clean way of displaying all of your incoming and outgoing calls. So we can filter calls only and we'll get calls only, or we can filter SMS only and it'll give us SMS only. So let me show you this, how it will work. If we go to the seller info, we'll make a call. Now, basically, I'm calling my own phone number, so it's not going to connect, but you can kind of get an idea. So we can now see this is the call that was just made. You can see the lead stage also was automatically updated to no contact made following up because it was marked as busy, no answer. We'll put couldn't connect as our call note, update it to answered. So now what you'll see is the lead stage is marked as contact made, answered, we got our notes, and those call notes will also show right here in our notes log. So then we can also text directly from here as well. Hey, are you looking to sell? Something generic. We can hit send. Obviously, I'm going to show you how to connect SmrtPhone. We're going to show you how to do this, all this communication overview. So you can see the text message was sent, what was sent, and it shows here as well. So that's basically the seller leads overview. You'll get the same functionality with your cash buyers. So you'll be able to track all your communication history right here. We'll add a buyer's name, put Martin Test, email. We'll just put a random phone number for now. Save. Minimum buying price is important. All right, and you can make these non-required if you want. There's no issue there. So yeah, it will all act the same. So you'll have your communication history here. You can add your buyer's criteria. These are just category fields. You can add more criteria. You can remove criteria. Completely up to you. Login notes, tasks, it's all the same. It all functions the same as it does in the Seller Leads app. So what you might notice is that a few of these apps are really just for storing information. Your appointments, notes log, communication, contact settings, even team members to some extent, you don't really use these. They're just really for powers and information that's going to be displayed here. So let me show you the purchase contract side of things. So we can go to our offers section. We can log an offer amount. Let's just log something random, log offer. What this will do is, if there's not already an offer record created, it's going to create one. So you can see one's being created. we can go and we can see it was created a few seconds ago. It shows the tasks that are due for that lead, the notes for that lead, and we have the initial offer date, last offer date, all that good stuff. In your contract specifics, this is where you're going to basically fill out the required fields in order to generate a purchase contract. If we were to try and hit generate purchase contract now, we'll get an error because we need to fill out these fields. So let's quickly do that. Find a legal description, random, earnest money, expiration date, close within 6 days of signing, additional terms, not applicable at this point, and then we'll generate purchase contract. Oh, we need to add in a seller's email. For that, we can go back to our related lead and add in our email. We'll need to add in the email in order to send via right signature if we were going to do that. So we'll go then back to our offers record, go to our offers. Oh, and just while we were at our seller leads, what you can see will happen is if I now log a higher offer or a different offer, this over here will update and you'll see the last offer date, if it was a different date, would have also updated. So we can go back to our offer record, go back to contract specifics, unselect that. What you'll notice is everything's really easy to navigate. Once you know how the system works, you'll be navigating around in seconds and you're building it. So you'll know exactly how to navigate around it. So generate purchase contract. You'll see the contracts being added. So we can refresh. And we can see our file right here. See all of the information that we've just inputted. And as I said, you will get this template and I will show you how. So yeah, that's the system. That's how it's going to work. It's really easy to keep on top of follow-ups, keep on top of offers, and have a really good overview of your communication history. Down the road, we'll do things like drip campaign, and I'll show you loads of different tips and tricks. But for now, this is a great system to get started. So when building this system, there is going to be a little bit of code. Some of the code is going to be long. We're doing calculation fields and we're doing flows. I am going to have down below a link where you can buy a template of the code we're going to use so you can just copy and paste. It does come at a small cost, but it should save you a lot of time. But you don't need to use it. You'll be able to pause, copy the code from the screen if that's what you want to do. On the same link below, you'll be able to purchase this system completely finished with the smartphone integration, with a video showing you how to integrate the smartphone account. It takes just 5 minutes. So you'll be up and running in no time. But for those wanting to build the system, let's get into it. All right, so as you can see, we're now in Podio. When you first create your Podio account, you're going to make sure you have the premium account because without the premium account, we can't add any automation. So you're going to need the premium account. Then from here, all we want to do first is create our workspace. So we can go to the menu in the top left, click create a workspace and give it a name. From here, I'll give it YouTube Wholesaling demo. You can see it's not the first time I've tried this demo. Okay, so once we get to this page, we want to obviously make sure that when you add us to the system, you don't pay to add us to the system. So what we're going to do is we're going to click X here, and then we're going to go to invite right here. So when we hit invite, it's going to come up with employees or clients. You're going to select clients, and then you're going to add admin at orata.io, exactly like on the screen here. So once you've done that, you can then hit add to YouTube Wholesaling demo or whatever your your workspace is called. The next step is to go to manage members and then change Orata admin, go to add actions and select make admin. So this then just makes sure that you are adding us to your system as a client and you don't pay to add us to your system because we have a kind of special Podio partner account, we're able to be added to your workspace without you having to pay the monthly fee. So there we go. So our next step is then to remove these. We don't need these for this system, so we can create a completely blank system from here. Now we want to get our apps. To do that, if you check the video description, you'll see a link where you can download the apps. That link will bring you to this page. So let's go ahead and fill this out. We'll first put in our name, your email address. You can use whichever email address you want. I'm going to use admin@arata.io again. And then it asks for a Podio user ID. To get that, you go to your icon in the top right here, click My Profile, and we have the user ID is in the URL. We just want those numbers at the end. There we go. And then we want our workspace URL. So we can go back to our workspace homepage and grab the URL from here. There we go. So it's super important that all of these details are correct, because if they're not, we're not going to be able to install the workspace. So double check over this, make sure we're admin, and then click Install System Template. Workspace found, we can press Continue. If at the start you get an error, you can just wait, give it 5-10 minutes. Sometimes it takes the system a bit of time to recognize the workspace that we've been added to. So if it gets an error and you're sure you've checked that the URL and the ID is correct, then just wait 5 or 10 minutes, refresh the page and come back. Then it should work. If you have any issues, just email us, support@arata.io. So at this point, you have the option to join our Podio forum. If you join our Podio forum, it just gives you the opportunity to ask any questions, follow along with any videos that are released, all different types of things. Basically, it's just a way for you to communicate with us and other people that also have a Podio system or are looking for Podio questions. So maybe you can get some inspiration as well. So we'll click Join Podio Forum. At that point, we'll have invited you to the forum and you can close this page out. What you'll also notice is if you check your inbox, you will have received the purchase contract templates as well. They have been sent to the email that you just put in the form. In case you didn't get them for some reason, then click the link again. And in the top right, you'll see Get Purchase Contract Only. And then you can fill that out and we'll resend them. So now we're back in our system. We can hit refresh. And what you'll see is we have all our apps. We have all of the KPIs. You can see the communication KPIs aren't here from the original demo because we haven't installed SmrtPhone yet. That'll be done in part 2. But for now, we have all of the other KPIs. And we have all of our apps, tasks, sell leads, offers, cash buys. Everything's here except the communication app because we haven't got SmrtPhone yet. From here, all of the calculation fields are already done. We don't need to do any of that. So if I come into modify template, you'll see everything's already done for you. The only thing you need to do now is the automation. Originally, I was going to show you how to do the calculation fields as well, but I really didn't feel like that was A, a lot of fun to do, and B, you're not using calculation fields as much as you're using automation. So I thought, let's just do the automation side of things. Saves you time and it's a little more fun as well. So let's go ahead and add our first lead. This will just be a random lead that we're going to just use to test on. So lead manager, this is connected to our team members app. We don't have any team members at the moment, so we'll go ahead and add one. Team member's name, Martin Evans. Martin Evans, researcher, safe. You can give any job title, it doesn't matter. Full name, we'll do Will Smith. Phone number, I'll just grab my SmrtPhone phone number, add it in there. Email address, use support@arata.io. We can leave second seller blank. We'll go ahead and add in an address. Just click whatever comes up. The rest we can leave blank. All right, so you see now we have our first lead. All of the headers are filled out. We have our navigation already working. The only thing left to do is add in the automation. So if we click seller leads at the top middle here, that will take us to our seller leads overview. To get to GlobyFlow, we can hit the wrench, click workflow automation, and it'll bring you to this page. Because it's your first time logging in, then it might bring you to a different page where you can just click login in the top right. Once you've logged in, it will bring you to this page. Once you're here, to get GlobyFlow to recognize the new apps that have been installed in the new system you've created, we can click refresh from Podio in the top bottom left here. So you'll see it refreshes your whole page. Takes a few seconds, but once that's done, we'll have our system show here. I have a few other systems, but what you're looking for is you'll just have this system that you've just created called YouTube Wholesaling Demo, or whatever you've called it. So from here, you can hit the plus and you'll see all of the apps that have just been installed. For the duration of this demo, don't change any field names and don't change any category options. So for example, seller leads. In the lead stage, we have all these different lead stages already there. A lot of the time, we're going to be referencing them from automation. And if you're changing the names beforehand, it's going to really confuse things along the way. So for now, just leave everything as it is. And then at the end of the demo, you'll know what fields you can change and you'll know what fields you need to be cautious of changing. And if you do change them, you might need to go back into the automation and just work some things around. But you're going to be a pro by the end of this video, right? All right, so without further ado, let's get into the automation. We're going to start with the Tasks app. There's three main functionalities we want the Tasks app to have. We want that when a task is created, we have a hidden field. Let me just give this is a task. Save that. We have a hidden field, and it's a membership field to a Podio member that's in our system. We want that when someone is assigned, this gets updated. We do this because if we don't add them to the membership field, they won't get notified that they have a task. So you might be thinking, okay, so why don't we just have the membership field as the assigned to instead of the relationship field? The reason for that is with the relationship field, it's much easier to track KPIs. And down the line, I'm going to be using this system to show you how to best track KPIs and even advance granular team KPIs. So I want to build the system correctly now so that hopefully if you subscribe and watch the KPI video, you'll be able to grow your system even further. So that's functionality one. So whenever an item is created, it updates our hidden membership field. Whenever this field is updated, it should also update our hidden membership field. The second functionality is when the due date is updated, and if our task is currently overdue, if our due date is updated to a future date, the status should go back to new, just to keep things all correct, basically. The third and final functionality we want the system to have is, I noticed a lot when clients are using a system very similar to this, that a lot of their team members would try and log notes in the Tasks app for leads. So the third functionality we want to have is that if a note is logged in our tasks, we want it to create a note for the related seller lead. So that's the three functionalities we're going to work on now. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. We'll assign it to me. We'll relate the item to our test lead we have already and add in a due date of the 21st, 12 p.m. and then save. So now what we need to do is go back into GlobyFlow or PWA. PWA it's now called. I probably will switch between GlobyFlow and PWA just because I always forget it's PWA now. From here, we can see our tasks section. We're going to start with when a new item is created. When we go to add new here, we'll see we have different options: new flow, new chart, new CMS, new feed. I never use these three options. Maybe at some point down the line we'll go over them, but for this build, we will be ignoring these three and only using flows. So flows are basically what triggers your automation. So we have some different options here. New item is created, when an item is updated, a new comment, date field, manual flow, task completion. We'll never use this because we don't use Podio's built-in tasks. We have our own tasks app because, as I mentioned, it's better for having a tasks overview. So we're not going to use that. Email reply, we're not going to use that. We're not actually going to do emails. I'm going to do a video in the future that shows Globe email, but we're not going to use that. SMS text reply, we'll never use that. SmrtPhone doesn't function with that. Write signature document signed. We will use that if you're going to integrate write signature for sending and receiving contracts. External link, we're not going to be using that. And file uploaded, we will be using that. It's a relatively new trigger at the time of filming. It's actually really nice, but yeah, we'll go over that later. The three main ones we're going to be using are item created, item updated, and manual flow. But for this, we want to start with item created. So when a new item is created, we're going to give our flow a name. My naming convention is pretty simple. We start with 1.0.0. Always start with 1.0.0 is when a new item is created. The naming convention, I don't have something specific that I use, but I do kind of explain as best as possible what the flow does in as short a sentence as possible. So for this, we're just going to do new item created. That's pretty much the name I use for each new item is created flow. So you can see we have filters and actions. Your filters are going to be only run this flow if these conditions match. So if a value matches, we're not going to add a filter because we always want this flow to run. So what we're first going to do is we're going to update the item, update the new item that was created, and we're going to add the task PID and the task URL. These are what we always want to be filled because they're really handy to have in items for using in calculation fields and automation. But for now, we're just going to fill them out with the Podio item ID. So the task PID, task Podio item ID, is going to be this task Podio item ID field. You'll notice that if we type in PID, this is going to be our task PID field. But if we were to add this here, we're basically just adding blank to blank at this point because the task PID has no value. So neither will this because this is the actual field. To see these tokens, you can press here. So press here and it brings up all of the fields that are basically in the tasks record. So you can see status. All of these fields are what we have in our tasks app. What we want is, as said, the task Podio item ID. So we'll add that here. And then we want the task URL. Again, we can search URL and we have our URL link to item. Again, we don't want to add the same field. We want the URL link to item. Every single app will have a Podio item ID field and a URL link to item. And we'll typically add them each time an item is created within an app. In this demo, I'm going to always be using the Alt-T shortcut to bring up our token field. You can click here, but I really recommend you get used to using Alt-T. The next thing we want to do is update that hidden member field that we have. We want to basically get whatever items are here, and for each assigned to person, update the hidden membership field with our Podio member field right here. So bearing in mind, multiple people could be assigned. So let's go ahead and add a new person. We'll do Orata admin because we have Orata admin right here. We'll mark them as researcher as well. So now we have two people. So essentially what we want our hidden membership field to have is both of these members added. Let's go ahead and unhide this so we can see it get updated real time. All right, so we have assigned to Martin Evans and Orata admin. What I forgot to go over is these silent and hook events. If you select silent, it means that you'll get no notifications popping up here. So when an item is updated or anything happens via automation, if you select silent, no notification will happen here. With hook event is if you want the update or whatever you are doing in a flow, if you want that action to trigger another flow. So if you have a flow that when the task PID is updated, do this, you would want to select hook event because you would want that flow to be triggered. If we unselect it, it won't be triggered. For these, we have no automation that's around these fields, so we will not select hook event. So moving on to our assign to field. What we want to first do is go to the plus here to get a new action, and we're going to type in get referenced items. With get referenced items, you're essentially getting the referenced items, the related items of this item. So we can search and we'll see that we have team members as an option. So we can select team members, and then we have the direction. Direction, forward, reverse, both referenced from and references to this item. I never, ever, ever have used both from and references to. Unless you really know what you're doing, it's bad practice to use both from and to. You always should specify the direction you want to pull from. So forward would be if this item references the team members in its record. So you can see this would be a forward relationship because the tasks item references the team members directly here. A reverse relationship would be if the team member had a relationship field that referenced the task app directly. It doesn't. So this is why it's a forward relationship. So we'll select forward. And then again, it's bad practice to leave it as any field. Always select the field you want to pull the relationship from. So we're going to pull from the assigned to field. So from here, we're going to loop through each one of our related items that we found. So we can from here use the for each loop, select our reference team members. For each reference team member, we want to update our item. We want to find our tasks assigned to field. And then what we want to do is loop through, keep the value that's currently there while updating it with a new value. This is a little bit advanced, but you'll see it used a lot. And when you start building yourself, you'll notice how useful this functionality is. I don't want to make your mind blow right now, but follow along and things will get easier as we go. So we're going to, for each record, we're going to keep the current value of this and update it with the next value. So for that, we're going to use calc, and then we're going to get the field that we're updating, which is our tasks assigned to field. We're updating that. And then we're going to use dot. So we go dot, quote, comma, quote, dot, and then we're going to get the Podio member field. All right. So essentially what we're doing is we're getting this value that's already in this field and we're updating it with our value here each time. And then to finish it off, we use continue. All right. So now we can test it out. So we can save this flow and we can do a manual run, which means we can select here, hit run, select one because we want to test this on one item of our tasks and select OK. So now when we go here, you'll see that our task assigned to updates each time with our team member, and that team member will get a notification. For me, it's pretty cool when you kind of see things that you've built yourself happen on screen. Hopefully you guys feel the same way. Let's see it in action without manually running it. So we can create a new task. Follow up with lead, for example. Related item is going to be our test lead. Assign it to, we'll do Martin, and we'll add both. Due date, we'll do 1 p.m. and then save. And what we'll see happen, these get created and this field automatically gets updated. It's not updated on the screen for some reason, but doing a refresh, we can see it's updated. So perfect. So we can now modify template and we'll hide this field again. All right, so the next thing what we want to happen is basically that when our assign to field is updated, our hidden membership field gets updated as well. I'm actually going to unhide this so we can see it happen again. So we have our to assign to right now. So if I was to update this to just Martin, I would want here to only have Martin. So we're going to go here, and we're actually, for this one, because the functionality is pretty much the same, we're going to copy it. So we can copy here, copy, and you can see the flow has been copied. But there's a few things we need to change. First, we're going to change the name. Call it assigned to updated. And then we're going to change this trigger here to when an item is updated. And what we're also going to do is remove this because we only want to update these values when an item is created. And then we're actually going to add a filter this time. So we're going to say if a field has changed. So we're going to say if our assign to field has changed, we're going to first. So I'm going to add a new record. I'm going to update item. I'm going to get our tasks assigned to. I'm going to unset it. I'm going to mark that as silence because we don't need to notify someone of that. So the tasks assigned to, our hidden tasks assigned to field has been unset. And then we want to loop through again. So we're going to keep this exactly the same. So we'll save this and then let's go ahead and give it a test. So we can come to our test task. Let's remove Orata, save that. And then hopefully we'll see that only Martin is added. So perfect. That's working. That's feature one completely done. The next feature we want this tasks app to have is that if the due date is updated, so let's say the due date was yesterday, time of filming this. So this task is now overdue. We'll do automation that automatically marks the task as overdue soon. But let's say this due date was then updated to the 18th. What we want to happen is that the status moves from overdue to new. So to do that, we will then create a new flow, and when an item is updated, I'm going to give this the consecutive number. It's 1.0.2. Due date updated. Update task status. So the name is basically the action and a brief description of what it does. So we want when the item is updated, if our due date field has just changed and due date is equal to current date, or field value match, or due date is greater than current date, and status is equal to overdue, because we obviously don't want to update it if it's completed. Update item, update status to new. And we can mark that as silent. It's an unnecessary notification in my opinion. We can save that. So when the task is updated, and if due date has changed, and if due date is equal to current date, or due date is greater than current date, and status is overdue, update the item. Let's give it a test. Let's update our due date to the 18th. And let's see what happens. You can see the status is updated to new. But, quick point, because we marked the flow as silent, that means that the update won't happen on the screen. You'll see it happened, and you'll see that if I refresh, it's updated to new. But that wouldn't happen on the screen, basically. I personally don't mind this for the most part, but if you want the update to happen directly on the screen, don't select silent. So let's give it one more test, and we'll test that it's working correctly. So let's update it to the 16th, which is not a date in the future. Now nothing should happen. Let's see. Refresh. Perfect, nothing happens. So go ahead and update it to 22nd. Status is new. Great. So that's the second functionality done. The next one, so we can go ahead and save that. The next one is if a status is overdue. So basically, if this status is overdue and the status is still new, we want to automatically update this status to overdue. So to do that, this is where we'll new flow. This is where we'll use a date field. The way the date flows work is when a date field of an item matches a certain criteria, it will then do whatever actions you set it to do. So for this, 0.0.4, due date overdue, mark status as overdue. So what we want to do is if due date is equal to current date minus 1. So what we're saying is if the due date is equal to yesterday and, we want to and here, and status is equal to new. So again, we don't want to update ones that have been completed already. And if status is equal to new, update item, update the status to overdue. I personally do this as silent, but again, it's up to you. And save. So to test it, what we want to do is we first want to make sure our due date is yesterday. So you can see today is the 17th. I'm going to mark the due date as the 16th. Then I will go back to Globe Flow, PWA, and I'll run it. I'll select one. When you run a flow like this, it will always run on the most recent item. So you can see this is our most recent item. This is the one that was created most recently. So going back to Globe Flow, run it on one, hit OK. All right, so what we should see now is if we refresh, we'll see that the status is overdue. Again, don't forget, I personally add a lot of things as silent because I don't like the notifications. But if you want the team member to be notified that their status is overdue, you can mark it as not silent. But personally, I feel that when a team member starts their day, they should always be coming in here and looking for their name and looking what tasks are due today or what tasks are overdue. So if I was Martin, if I was coming into the system at the beginning of the day, I'd be looking here what tasks I've got to do today, or I'd be looking here at what tasks are overdue. And if I saw this was overdue, for example, and I was like, oh, I need a few more days, what I can simply do now, because of the automation we've created, is mark it at the 20th and then watch the status get updated to new again. And there we go. So the last functionality we want is if a note is added mistakenly. So when I say a note is added, what I mean is the team member selects log, and then this is a No, because as you saw from the demo, to log notes, to create notes, we always use the log tag. So if I was to do this now, nothing will happen. I can go to the lead, go to the notes, and no note has been logged. So let's go back to the task. You can see now we go down to our tasks section. We have our tasks overview right here. So let's add in this functionality. What we want to do is come here, add new flow, and then we're going to use a new comment this time. So when a comment is added, we want to do something. So 1.0.5, note logged. I'm just going to call it note logged. So this is where we have our first kind of longer piece of code. I'm going to quickly pull up the cheat sheet that I said was available to purchase down below. You don't need to get it for this demo, but it might make life a little bit easier, but you'll be able to copy the code directly from the screen. All right, so we're in our code template. And if you scroll down, the first code that you'll see is this custom if valuation, which is exactly what we're going to be using here. So we can come here and create a custom calculation. Now, for those that have the code template, you can go ahead, copy this. So we'll select copy. And then all of these triggering comments fields, we're going to replace. So we'll remove that. We'll get our triggering comment from our tokens, and you'll see they all add in straight away. For those that don't have the code template, what this code does is it takes into account when people will possibly log different things. So for example, with this code, you could log, let me just pull up a random variable. So you could do notes log colon. It also takes into account if people use capitals or not. So you can do whatever you want. It's not case sensitive. So you can see you could do notes, for example, right here. So it takes into account a lot of different variations. But for those that don't have the code pack and maybe want to do a really simplified version, what you can do instead is come here, comment match, if comment contains log, and that's it. It doesn't have the same flexibility with this. The comment would have to contain log. It would need to be all lowercase, so they couldn't use notes or something like that. But if you're happy to just do this, it is possibly a much quicker way than copying all of the code on the screen right now. But if you want to do that, feel free to copy it or get the flow template. So from here, what we want to do is we want to get our reference items again. But this time, we're getting the reference seller leads record. The relationship would be forward, and we're using the related items. So we're basically getting the related lead that's in this field. From here, what we want to do is check that there is a lead. So we want a sanity check. So we're doing an if statement. We're going to do if Podio item ID, we're looking for the ref seller lead, Podio item ID, is not equal. So that means not equal. Exclamation mark, equal sign is not equal. Equal is equals. So what we're saying is if Podio item ID is not equal to empty. Essentially what this is asking is there a lead in this related item record? Only continue if there is a lead in this related item record. So if seller lead Podio item ID is not equal to blank, then we want a variable. And this variable, we'll call it note logged. This variable will strip out the tag that was used and only get the comment we want. So going back to our cheat sheet, we can see we have this bit of code here. For those that want a simplified version, what you can do is explode log comma triggering comment, close the bracket, square bracket, 1, close the square bracket. So what this is basically doing is getting everything after that log trigger. So if you're using the simplified version that I showed you before, this is what you can do. For those using this version, we need to have something a little more complicated, which is this that we just got from our cheat sheet code. The reason we need this is because we don't actually know what tag they're going to use. So we want to just make sure that we get everything after whatever tag they've used. So that's what this is doing. So then we want to create an item in our notes log. If we open up our main workspace, we'll see we have this notes log right here. This notes log, it's just for storing information that's been logged in seller leads or tasks. So what we want to do, I might keep forgetting to press the plus. Another way to add a brick under an existing one is to simply hold Control and click. And that brings up another brick. So if you see it just appear, that's what I'm doing. Sorry, I didn't explain it before. What we want to do is create an item. Select the app, which is our notes log. Find the name of your system. It's this one right here. We're going to mark this as silent, and we're going to mark it as hook event. This time I do recommend you just mark it as silent and hook event. Make sure those two are selected. Then we're going to go add in the record. The record is going to be the ref seller leads items. We're going to select that one. Then we're going to add in the note. This time, we're going to go into our tokens and find our variable. So if we type in var, we'll see we get our variable coming up, note logged. So let's go ahead and add that. Then we add in the date log. So it's just going to be current time and date. Logged by. From here, we're going to get the comment creator name. So we want to know who logged the note. And then that's it. We can leave the rest. So from here, we just need to close our sanity. So if you use a sanity brick, you always need to close it with an end if. So now what will happen is, if someone logs a note, it will create a new record and link it to the lead. What we can also do, one little final touch, is to comment, type in comment, add a comment. I'm going to mark this comment as silent. And the comment body is going to be asterisk, asterisk, which, as you'll see, makes the comment bold. So putting an asterisk, asterisk at the beginning, we'll put note logged. And then to make it bold, we have to close it with an asterisk, asterisk as well. So we got note logged. So basically, they'll log a note, and then they'll get confirmation that that note has been logged with a comment. And then we can save it. All right, perfect. So let's give it a test. We can go back to our tasks record. Follow up with lead. Select log. This is a test and comment. Great. So now when we go to our seller lead, go down to our notes log, nothing shows up. The reason for this is because we need some automation in our notes log to add in the Podio item ID and the URL so that we're able to display it here. If we scroll down on our seller lead, you'll see that there is a related note, but our calculation field can't display it at the moment. But let's go ahead and fix that. So fixing it is really simple. All we need to do is go to our Podio workflow, go to our notes log app, and then we need a new flow. So when an item is created, I will start going a little bit quicker so that you don't get too bored. When a new item is created, and then we just want to update our standard fields, which are the note PID and the notes URL. We're going to mark those fields as silent, and then we'll add them in. So Podio item ID. Make sure we got the right one. We're not adding the same field on, remember? And then the URL. Again, making sure we're not selecting our current field. We're selecting the actual item URL. And then we can save. So what we'll do is we'll then run that for all of our records. just put 0. In case you have more than one, we don't at this point. Okay? And then there's one more thing that needs to be done. This show count, for the notes to show, it can't be empty. Later on, by default, we're going to make sure this show count has a value. By default, it's always going to be 10. So let's go ahead and add 10. Perfect. And now it shows. So if I was to come here, log, this is another test. Oh, we've not added the flow in for seller leads yet, but we can do it from our tasks. Log, this is another test. Back to our seller leads. Let's go down to notes, and it's there. So while we're on the subject, let's go ahead and add in our log notes flow for all of our other apps that we use it for. We'll go to our tasks. We'll grab the current one we already have, and we're going to copy it. And we're going to copy it into our wholesaling space, into seller leads. Copy. Remove the copy. And then from here, we need to make a few changes. All this stays the same. We can remove this. We can remove this. We can remove this. And then we change the record to current seller lead item. And then save. So now, when we go to our seller lead record and we try again, this is a test. Note logged. And there we go. Okay, and then we're going to do the same for offers. We'll go to the tasks one. Copy. Copy it into our offers app. We'll remove the copy of. We will select the related lead field. As said, this should always have a value. All of this stays the same, so we don't have to do anything else there. And we'll save it. And then we'll do the same for the cash buyers. We can copy this one this time. Copy. Find our cash buyers right here. Copy. Same again. Remove those. Remove the copy. And this time, we remove this, remove this, remove this, and then the record is going to be the current cash buyer item. And then we'll save. And then there's one other area we can add it, and that is, we'll get the task one again, and we'll add it to appointments this time. So copy, go over to appointments, copy, remove the copy of. And then from here, I like to make a few other small changes. So all of this is correct for the most part. All I'm going to do is change this to calc and then add in the, so if we search for Podio item ID again, we're going to do appointments Podio item ID. And then we're going to do our dot, quote, comma, quote, dot again. And then add in our ref seller lead Podio item ID. So we're adding both of the records in this time, basically. And then another thing I like to do is where it says note logged here, I'm going to press enter to add space at the top. And then I'm going to put asterisk, asterisk, appointment note. And then we're going to save it. The reason why I like to do this is just so that in the notes log, you know that it was made from an appointment. If we go into an appointments app, usually we'd create an appointment from our seller lead, but we haven't created that automation yet. So I'm going to manually create one, add appointment, add in our lead, and then just fill out these randomly. Going on appointment, cool. Appointment status is pending, and then save. So now what you'll see is if we go to our appointment section in our seller leads, we have our appointment here. There's a few flows that we need to add to make this show properly, but we'll get to that. But what we can also do is let's go back to our related appointment that we just created. Log, this is another test. Quite creative, but we can see the notes being logged. So now if we go to our seller lead, go down to notes, we can see we have our bold appointment note and then what was logged. Perfect. That is all the note flows done. Let's now move on to the appointment flows. There is only 2 flows we need here and 3 flows we need here. Cash buyers, offers, and seller leads have quite a few, but stick with us, it's going to be worth it. So the only other flow we need here is a flow that when an appointment is created. For similar reasons to the notes log, we need to add in those important fields, but we also need to add in a few other things. We'll do new item created. And then we don't need a filter again. Actions. First one's going to be update. We're going to update going name. We're going to update appointments PID. And we're going to update appointment URL. The going name, we use this field for our calculation. Our calculation isn't able to pull from membership names. So we need to have a text field, which is why we have this. So we can open our tokens and search for name. And what we want to display is the going on appointment name. So we can select this one. Then moving on to our PID, we're going to get the appointment Podio item ID, URL, the URL link to item, make those silent. From there, we're going to get the reference item. We're going to get our reference lead that this appointment's been created for. So it's a forward relationship. Again, let's see why. If we go into this note, we can see the related appointment. So this is the appointment that we just created. It's a forward relationship because the appointment is referencing the seller lead. So it's a forward relationship. So then we'll select the field, lead, and then all we're going to do is comment on the collected. So we're commenting on the lead at this point. We're going to do asterisk. Appointment scheduled. And then I want to give a link to the new appointment that's been scheduled in the comment on the lead. So we'll do square brackets, go to appointment record, close the square brackets. Then we're going to open parentheses, add in the URL, link to item again, and then close the parentheses. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to make this comment silent, just so there's no notifications. And that's it. So now what we can do is save that. We'll run it for the record that's just been created. Done. So now when we go to our lead, we can see we have our comment. And if we click here, it takes us to the appointment. Click back to the lead, go to the appointment, and everything looks perfect here. That's our appointments app completely done with. Let's tick off another one. Let's now do our team members. So in our team members app, there's 2 functionalities we want. The first one is we want to make sure that the name here always matches this name. So Orata admin always matches member's name. If we try to change this to Orata admin, then it should default back to Orata admin. They always need to match. This will be most important down the line when we're doing more complex KPI integrations, but it's also important for SmrtPhone. So we always need to make sure these names match. Another thing we want to do is always make sure that there's no 2 team members with the same name. This can cause massive confusion in the system. So we want to make sure that if a duplicate team member is added, so a team member with the same name, the newly created record is deleted straight away. This will save a lot of headache down the road. So let's go ahead and do that now. In our team members, we're going to first do our item created flow. 1.0.0. So we're going to do when a new item is created, we're going to update the last assigned field, the team member PID, and the team member URL. What you'll also notice is we have this warning here. Podio permissions are restrictive in this app. Users cannot edit items. This is because if we go into the team members, we click the wrench, go into app settings, advanced, you can see I've enabled don't let members add items to this app and don't let members edit items in this app. In my opinion, the only person that should be adding team members and editing team members, although a team member really only ever needs to be edited when their role changes, the only person that should be doing that is admins, account owners, basically. So if you don't want that, just go ahead and unselect these. But I prefer to have that, so I'm going to keep it on. This means that when we go into our flow, the authentication, instead of it being the app itself, we have to change it to the account owner, basically. For this, it's me. This should show your email address. We're also going to mark these as silent. The last assigned date is going to be current date and time. The last assigned date is important because down the line, we're going to create a round robin to assign leads to team members automatically. So that's what the last assigned date is for. And then the PID is standard team members Podio item ID, URL. What you'll notice is the Podio member field is not a required field. So we want to check if there is a value in there. To do that, we're going to add in a sanity. And we'll do if Podio member is not equal to blank, then update the item, not forgetting to change the permissions again. I'm going to mark it as silent. Member's name to the Podio member's name. And then, as I've mentioned, we need to end with a end if. So this is basically checking if there is a value here. And if there is a value here, it's updating this field so that this field's name matches this name. What we're then going to do is check for a duplicate team member. This is where we can use the search. So we're going to search for items. We're going to search the team members right here. Search the team members where team member's name is equal to the current team member's name. We're going to ignore self. This just means that when it does the search within the same app, it ignores the current item that's searching. So when this item does a search for another record in the system with errata admin, it won't find this record, basically. And then we're going to do if. So we want another sanity check. If Podio item. So this time we want the ref team members Podio item ID. So we're checking if any matching team members have been found. If ref team members is not equal to blank, then we want to first comment. We're going to mention the person that created this record in the comment. So when we go to our tokens and we type in mention, you'll see we have the option of revision creator mention or item creator. So we're going to mention the item creator, and then we're going to basically do an error message. You can type whatever you want as the error message. I'm going to do error, a team member with the name, and then I'm going to put in the name field with the name is already in the system. You can not have duplicate team members, this record will be deleted in 30 seconds. All right, perfect. We're going to need to add in our double asterisk here. I'm going to make error bold. A team member with the team member's name is already in the system. You cannot have duplicate team members. This record will be deleted in 30 seconds. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put a wait brick. So the wait brick basically waits for 30 seconds before moving on to the next action. Our next action is going to be a delete brick. So we're going to delete the current item. Again, we need to make sure anytime we're deleting an item via automation, we need to make sure that the authentication is an admin member, not the app itself. So I'll select my email address. I'm going to make it silent. And then we need our end if. Perfect. So first, we are updating the required fields. Then we're checking if this field has a value. And if it does, we're updating this field with this member's name. We're then searching our team members app for a team member that has a matching name. And if it does, we're throwing an error comment, waiting 30 seconds, and deleting the record that was just created. So let's save it. And to test it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to Actions. I'm going to clone this record. And then I'm going to save it. And let's see what happens. We get our error message. Now let's wait 30 seconds. I'll probably do a cut here. Okay, so it's been about 30 seconds. Now if I do a refresh, we get an error. That's because the item has been successfully deleted. So let's go to the team members app. And you can see we only have 2 again. Perfect. The next automation we need is a new flow when an item is updated. And we're basically going to do if this field has updated. So if it updates to Martin, for example, we need to update this name here. So we'll do one Podio member field updated. If Podio member field has just changed, we then want to update item, update the member's name to match the Podio member's name. Mark it as silent and make sure the authentication is your email. All right, so we can save that. And then what we can do is go ahead and give it a test. So let's add Martin. You'll see the member's name's updated. If I do a refresh, perfect. Add back Orata admin, do a refresh, and we get Orata admin. That's working perfectly. Now what we want to do is just one more where we check if this field is updated. We then need to make sure we sync them back up. So team members name updated. If field member's name has just changed, and we want to check this time, I'm going to use a custom cal, and we want to check that Podio member has a value. So not equal to blank if Podio member is not blank, because what we don't want to happen is if you for some reason add a team member and this members field is empty, you don't add a member, so for some reason the person isn't in your Podio, then we don't want that every time you update this, it essentially updates it to blank because there's no value here. So that's why we need to check if the Podio member is actually there. Then what we'll do is update item, update the member's name, and revert it back to the Podio member's name. Again, I'm going to mark it as silent and then change the authentication. So let's give it a go. If I change this to Orata add, you can see it gets updated straight away back to Orata admin. I refresh, there we go. But what won't happen is if I remove Orata admin from here and then update it, let's just put Orata. Member's name's Orata, and nothing happens. So I can refresh. But if I update this now to Orata admin, the member's name will now update to Orata admin. So keeping everything synced. Perfect. So we're completely done now with our team members. We're done with our appointments. We're done with our notes log. We don't need any automation in our contacts. We don't need any automation in our settings. But while we're in settings, what we do want is to add a settings record. This is going to be used later down the line when we're creating contracts and all that type of stuff. So we just want to fill out these fields. So system owner's name is going to be your name, your company name. Let's do Orata. Company address, I'm going to leave it. Company phone, I'll leave it. You don't need it. Name used on contracts, I'm going to put Orata Ltd again. Company logo, I'm going to leave blank. Seller facing email, let's do seller facing from name, Orata Ltd. Then we're going to save it and we'll see that the available variables updates. So the purchase contract right signature message, let's do a refresh. Sometimes we have to do a refresh to get the calculation fields to show when we first create a record. So the purchase contract right signature message, this is basically going to be when you send a contract via right signature to be signed, what do you want to show? And you can see that we can add in some variables here. I'm simply going to do something really simple, and I suggest you do the same. Hi, seller's first name. Please see purchase contract for, we'll do full address for, and that's it. The contract message should be relatively short. And that's all we need to do here. The rest we can leave, is optional, but that's all we need to do. Great. So we've ticked off tasks. We've done team members. We've done appointments. We've done our notes log. Contacts, we don't need to do anything. We've added our settings. We're making great progress. There's only 3 more apps to do. It's our 3 most important apps. But so this video isn't too long, I'm going to create a part 2 and you'll find it in the description. So see you there.